Hey everyone on here. Yes, I'm videotaping from my vehicle. I am just in between places right now, and this is a time, it's a beautiful time of year, but we're kind of windy here, and we're starting to get a little bit colder. It's not super cold yet, but with the wind, my fingers start to get a little bit numb, so I'm hoping that you can enjoy at least this beautiful scenery out my window here. And for those that don't know me, I am the author of the Code Journey, a new edition which I put out every year, and you can check that out through my website, compassioncodes.com. But yeah, I'm just kind of in between places right now. So I'm winging it, and I don't normally record from my vehicle, as you guys know, but this is just kind of one of those rare situations where I needed to get the video out, and I had to work with what I had. And that is all part of it. So anyways, for this month coming up in December, and for this month's insights right now, because this is going to play into some of the influences that we have coming in through December's codes, I really want to look at the value and the importance of the holiday season, because this is one of the things that is present. And one of the big aspects about this energy pattern is learning to be in appreciation, learning to be in gratitude, learning to appreciate the small things, the everyday things in our life. And it's about being in seasonal flow, wherever you are, whether you're the southern hemisphere, the northern hemisphere, whether it's cold, whether it's getting warmer for you, to embrace what the season has to offer. And I think this is very important as we look at our holidays and this time of year, which I thought, wow, this is kind of a big thing, and it's so beautiful to have this alignment of energy to help us get back to those things that are of true value, of real value. And that is these interactions that we have. That is really embracing what the season has to offer, taking that walk in the crisp air, watching the leaves fall down. You know, we have that here where the leaves are all falling off of the tree right now, and embracing what the season is about where you are. For some people, right, that's kind of shedding some layers, and that's getting outside in the sun more. And for other people, like me in these winter areas, that is about throwing a coat on and starting to think about, you know, going within a little bit more. But even more than that, this time of year, almost everybody, regardless of their belief system, has days that are sacred and holy at this time. They have days and observations that are the holidays that they are observing. So whether they are observing Yule, or whether they are observing Christmas, or whether they are observing other celebrations, the winter solstice, or Hanukkah, or any of these things. I mean, there's so many different belief systems, and whatever it is for you, I mean, each one of these belief systems, each one of these sets of sacred days that people are observing at this time of year has some really beautiful meanings behind them. But what's interesting is, regardless of what religion we are, what belief system we are, what we're practicing, what our spiritual foundation is, this time of year is a time that tends to really bring us into the heart. It really brings us to come and center into here, and it naturally inspires people. It naturally inspires people to want to be in their heart space, to give more, to come from the soul self, to come from spirit. It's a time where people naturally crave partnerships and relationships. And I don't mean just love relationships, but all kinds of relationships of value. And it is this centering into the heart that leads us to experience the proverbial miracles of the holiday season. Because people will oftentimes set aside materialistic things. And it's very interesting to say that when so much of the holidays has become centered around this materialism and this giving and this buying and this being great at something. But really the most beautiful parts of the season is this giving aspect, is this aspect of the heart, is this aspect of what opens from within us during these times that are connected to these holy days in here. And this is a time where we naturally will reflect. And December's really going to call us to do that in the codes, to naturally reflect and to consider, what comes to a close and know our successes and the shifts that we've made throughout the year and the growth that we've had and what we've manifested, and to really reflect on all of these different components. And even in many of the belief systems, it calls us into this reflection at this time of year to really be aware of what we're doing and how we are living our life and how are we treating other people around us. And where is our focus? Is our focus on the spiritual, or is our focus on the material? And so this is a real interesting piece to bring up. But when we remember the value and the importance of this holiday season, again, regardless of what your belief is, it is about caring. It is about unconditional love. It is about opening up from within us to help one another, to work with one another, to have experiences that are warm and loving and caring. It's about gathering, it's about connecting, and it's about appreciating what we have. And in these times, I think it's so important that this energy is opening up right now, because in these times, one of the biggest things we can do is to come into gratitude. And more people may be starting to realize how much they've gotten away from that gratitude, or how much they have to be grateful for, and how much has been excesses, because as budgets start to get tighter for people, as they have less resources to work with, they work more, they have less to work with, they start to realize, yeah, man, having that roof over my head is a really big thing to be grateful for. Yeah, being able to take a walk on a trail is a huge thing to be grateful for. Having the sun come up, having the sun set, having the moonlight in the sky, seeing a shooting star. I mean, whatever it is, there's so many incredible things that happen. And when we get back to acknowledging these everyday things, when we get back to synchronizing with the natural rhythms and nature's rhythms, because nature's rhythms are God's timing. And when we get back to synchronizing with that and being in this flow and honoring the coming together that the seasons and the holidays offer us, we come into this appreciation, we come into being grateful for the small everyday things that don't cost us anything at all. Because these are where true value lies. This is where God is showing up in anything and everything in every moment of our life, and reminding us that, yeah, you know what, today might have been a rough day, but tomorrow I've got a whole new day to take advantage of. I've got a whole new opportunity to work with. And to realize that we have so much to be grateful for, and that the most important things in our life aren't the presents, they're not the gifts, they're not the materialisms, they're not the fancy houses or the expensive cars. Those are all things that just make life a little more comfortable. And most of them aren't even important, because they're usually rooted in status. They're usually rooted in something else besides a functional purpose. This season calls us to stop and reach inside our hearts and to be of divine service to those people who really need it, to be in service to those who cannot help themselves, to really tune in and be grateful for the numerous blessings that we have in our life. And this is how life really improves. I'm a living experience of that. I have hit rock bottom more than once, and when times get challenging, I have to tune into that divine abundance. That is the only place to create from. that divine abundance opens up something else. And it reminds me over and over again, it doesn't matter what I have. Everything that I need is within me. And that is this powerful piece in here. And it's to remind us that when we get into these spats with family members, when people aren't acting the way that we would like them to act, and because this is one of the things that come up, we can see some division in family in December through the codes, that these times we need to cherish, and we need to set aside these fights and these battles and these arguments. That doesn't mean that we just turn over and let people manipulate us, or we enable people in being abusive to us. I'm not saying that. But it does call us to take a look and say, look, you have a short amount of time with family. You have a short amount of time with the people in your life. It may seem like forever when you're on this earth, but you really have a short amount of time. So what are you going to do with those experiences? Can you laugh at their quirks? Can you, enjoy the oddities that are a natural part of who they are and embrace that without enabling them in the unfavorable pieces? These are the things for us to look at and say, you know what, we live in a pretty magnificent world. I mean, when we only look at the political side of things or world events, I mean, sometimes it doesn't seem like that. But when you look around and you see a scenery like what is behind me here, when I look around and I see the trees, when I look at the way nature naturally produces everything that we need, it's magnificent. This time of year, almost every practice and belief system calls us to go into our heart. This is the season of holy days. No matter what your belief system is, it is a time of holy days. And holy days is what connects our past, our present, our future. It makes things timeless. And it calls us to focus on those things that are timeless. And as the season of holy days, it calls us to know our value and our worth, and to see the value and worth of others. So I really hope that you will start to consider that this holiday season, as we go through particularly the next month here. And to realize that this is a time under this aspect that calls us to be devoted, or to reestablish our connection with God, with divine presence, with the soul self, and to make our commitment and our devotion to that. And that when we do that, it brings forward the wisdom that we need to move forward and to strengthen, and all of that creates a favorable future. When we reconnect and reaffirm this commitment to these values, these divine principles, we establish a path to a favorable future for ourselves and for the collective and for the earth. And we are stronger when we lean into God. We are stronger when we lean into divine presence and the soul self. And if we will do that, then the less we will deal with things that are unfavorable. There's this fine balance between we have to show up and do the pieces that we can do, and then we have to let go and let God. Let go and let the soul take the reins, and to let our human self step out of it. Again, we're constantly in action doing what we can, but constantly letting go at the same time. It's a very interesting balance. And this happens, again, very naturally when we come into appreciation, when we come into divine service, when we come into honoring this time of holy days. It is through this time that we're particularly being called to free ourselves from being a victim and from the influence of others. And we can love others tremendously, but that doesn't mean that we have to allow them to influence us, especially if they are influencing us in unfavorable directions. And this is where it gets challenging with family. And again, we can stand our strength within it and say, I'm going to honor being me, and I will honor allowing you to be you, but I will not allow you to take control over me or enable you in being things and doing things that are damaging. And this is where real love comes up. And this is what Christ's love was about. This is what, when you look at many of the holy days, the true love was about, honoring in this season. You know, others influence our circumstances, but they cannot make us a victim. And I think that that is so important to keep in mind. And this is the thing, whether we look at the biblical aspects, some people say Christ was born at this time. Some people want to argue that and say he was born another time. Regardless, this is a time that is about birth and rebirth, and a time that is about transition and shifting from these depths. And there's so many pieces. It's about the light and the darkness. There's so many parallels that we can draw in this energy. But if we take the story of Christ's birth and we apply that to this aspect of others being able to influence our circumstances but cannot make us a victim, how many people turned away Joseph and Mary during the time of Christ's birth, when she was ready to birth? How many people turned them away? They were influencing the circumstances. They were not giving them some of the things they needed. And yet, they were not victims. And because they leaned into God, because they leaned into divinity, because people stepped forward and helped where it was needed when they couldn't help themselves, they were not a victim. So I hope you will honor the holiday seasons and the holy days. And I hope that you will have a very, very blessed holiday. Take care, everybody, and remember the value of the holiday season.